A greenhouse the size of a shipping container sits 300 meters from one of the most remote research stations on Earth, in Antarctica at -40 degrees Celsius. Inside, cucumbers are growing. 2,000 kilometers from the North Pole, inside a mountain on a Norwegian archipelago, more than 1.3 million seed samples wait in frozen silence, the documented backup for nearly every crop the world depends on to survive. And off the coast of northern Norway, a steel platform 385 meters long holds 2 million live salmon in open Arctic water in swells that can exceed 30 meters. All three are running. So are three more, under a desert, beneath a city, and inside a concrete complex built for 100,000 cows. 6 attempts to grow food where conventional agriculture cannot. The engineering, in each case, works. That is not where the question sits. The question is what it costs to keep these systems running once the demonstration phase ends, and whether any of them can move from a single proof of concept to a supply a nation can depend on. That answer reduces to one figure: the cost of producing a single calorie. It is the number that decides everything downstream, and it is the number absent from every announcement. In 5 of these projects, it has to be reconstructed from the available evidence. In the 6th, a government has placed it beyond independent verification entirely. The distinction that runs through all 6 is straightforward. A demonstration can prove that the engineering works. It cannot prove that the economics survive at national scale. Building a system once, in one location, under favorable conditions is a different problem from building it again at the size a country requires. The skeptical reading, that most of these are demonstrations rather than scalable infrastructure, is, on the available evidence, a reasonable one. What follows measures each project against that single standard. The Eden ISS mobile test facility was deployed to Antarctica in 2018. A sealed, climate-controlled unit, roughly the size of a trailer, positioned 300 meters from the Neumayer 3 research station. No sunlight enters it. The crew grows cucumber, radish, lettuce, and herbs entirely under LED arrays, in temperatures that would freeze exposed skin in under 2 minutes.
I am now on that part of our facility that we call the Future Exploration Greenhouse. As you can see here, I'm surrounded by plants. To my left side, we have tomato plants. Behind that are cucumber plants. To my right side, we have here 4 different types of lettuce. So we have green lettuce, and we also have one that has some red leaves. So they're also tasting a little bit different. Behind the lettuce here, we have rocket. Below that, there are certain herbs like basil, coriander, chives, and parsley. Above here, we have Swiss chard, which is really tasty. And behind that, we have some red mustard plants with which have a spicy taste.
The project was led by the German Aerospace Center and funded through the European Union's Horizon 2020 program, Grant Agreement number 636501. Its stated purpose is to test whether sealed growing systems can hold output under the conditions that would apply on the Moon or Mars. The same data applies to any scenario on Earth where surface agriculture becomes unavailable: drought, conflict, soil contamination, or extreme heat. 4,000 kilometers away and 40 meters underground, a former World War II bomb shelter beneath Clapham in South London was converted into a commercial farm. Growing underground operates hydroponic trays under LED light below a working city. The principle inverts the Antarctic case: no hostile cold, only permanent darkness, and every photon the plants receive is purchased electricity. At the opposite thermal extreme, the Sahara Forest Project began with a pilot in Qatar, built in cooperation with Yara International and the Qatar Fertilizer Company. The design is circular. Seawater is drawn in and desalinated. The waste heat from that process cools a greenhouse, while evaporated seawater adds humidity to air that is otherwise extremely dry. Heat and salt, the desert's two constraints, become inputs. A second, larger installation followed in Jordan, converting brackish coastal land the size of several city blocks into a growing operation on the same integrated model.
The Sahara Forest Project is all about taking what we have enough of, like saltwater, CO2, sunlight, and deserts, to produce what we need more of: sustainably produced food, water, and energy.
Off Hadsel, in northern Norway, stands the largest structure on the list. The Jostein Albert, the platform at the center of the Havfarm project, is 385 meters of steel, weighing 33,000 tons, holding 2 million salmon across 6 nets, each 47 meters by 47. It was built at the Yantai Raffles Yard in China and towed 15,000 miles around the Cape of Good Hope to its operational site in the open Arctic.
In 2015, NSK Ship Design and Nordlaks set out to develop a new, more sustainable production method for salmon farming. Sketches from the early stages of development suggested a structural steel construction created to farm 10,000 tons of salmon, the first salmon farm to be located at a very exposed location.
In Mudanjiang, in China's Heilongjiang province, a concrete complex was built to house 100,000 dairy cows under a single operational roof. It originated not in consumer demand, but in policy. After Russia imposed sweeping sanctions on European dairy imports in 2015, the effect reached northeast China within months, and a joint Chinese-Russian development authority moved to build a domestic supply. A bilateral food pipeline running from Chinese industrial farmland to Russian distribution. 6 systems, 6 functioning responses to the same pressure. In each case, the engineering is confirmed. If this kind of evidence-first breakdown is useful, A-like helps it reach more people. A functioning system and a dependable food supply are different things. The distance between them is the cost per calorie, and it widens under examination.
I'm inside one of the 26 cow sheds here at the dairy farm where most of the cows get rest and fed. This is the lactating cow barn, where cows of around 2 or 3 years old are raised. It stretches over 300 meters with double rows, meaning over 38,000 cows eat and sleep here.
In Antarctica, the Eden ISS biomass report, published in 2020, confirmed that the facility produced meaningful quantities of fresh food through the 2018 polar winter. It also recorded that the crew time required to maintain the system was substantial and that the unit was designed to serve 9 researchers. Scaling from 9 to a base of hundreds would require energy and maintenance infrastructure that no current logistics pipeline in Antarctica can support. Every calorie produced depends on electricity generated and transported to the most logistically isolated food production site on record.
Here you can see our tomato plants. As you can see, that we have a lot of red and almost ripe fruits on the plants. In about 2 days from now, right when the Aquaspace is held in Rome, I'm going to harvest the first tomatoes.
Beneath London, the constraint is identical in structure. Every lumen of growth light is purchased electricity, and the heat generated by the LED arrays must be actively removed, or it becomes a hard ceiling on output. Subterranean farming does not eliminate the energy cost, it relocates it underground. In the desert, the costs rise rather than fall. Desalinating seawater at agricultural scale is thermodynamically expensive, and moving that water across desert terrain requires pumping infrastructure with its own continuous operating cost. The Sahara Forest Project's larger installation sits in Jordan, identified by the World Bank as one of the most water-scarce nations on Earth. Whether a desalination-fed greenhouse there can produce calories at a cost competitive with imported food remains unsettled. The offshore salmon platform carries the highest cost on the list, and its constraint is not only financial, but regulatory. The steel frame of the Jostein Albert cost 84 million British pounds according to Fish Farmer magazine, a figure that covers construction alone. It excludes the 15,000-mile delivery voyage, the mooring infrastructure installed at Hadsel, and the ongoing cost of operating the largest offshore salmon platform in open Arctic water. The build cost and the operational cost are separate numbers, and only the first appears in the press material. The regulatory constraint is independent of the engineering. The Norwegian Directorate of Fisheries declined to convert the platform's development licenses to permanent operational status, citing fish welfare. Nordlaks appealed. The platform received ASC certification, an independent verification of its aquaculture standards, and the regulatory and commercial outcome remained unresolved well after the first stocking. The operating conditions compound the cost. Swells in the Norwegian Sea can exceed 30 meters in winter storms, and a 33,000-ton structure moored at a single site must absorb those forces continuously across the roughly 24-month cycle from stocking to harvest. The structural analysis has to account for the steel and for the welfare limits of the fish, which are sensitive to motion, pressure differential, and water column disruption. Naval architecture and marine biology operating under the same commercial deadline. In Mudanjiang, the cost question reaches its sharpest form. The reported figure for the 100,000 cow complex is 1 billion yuan, approximately $161 million, among the most capital-intensive livestock operations on record. Its annual output, roughly 800 million liters of milk, is well attested across multiple agricultural monitoring reports. The cost figure is not. With the other 5 projects, the number can be reconstructed from available evidence. With this one, it cannot. That 1 billion yuan figure originates in a single source, a 2015 statement by the chairman of the Association of Applied Economics of Heilongjiang Province, cited through Interfax and People's Daily. It has never been confirmed through a corporate filing or an independent technical audit by any whitelisted authority. Bloomberg, Reuters, and the USDA have each examined the Mudanjiang complex from a different angle, and none has produced an audit figure the others align with. Confirmation alone would not resolve it. The USDA's assessment of large confined animal operations in China notes that subsidized capital, favorable land use agreements, and state-backed financing make direct comparison with Western commercial dairy unusable without adjustment. A McKinsey analysis of Chinese agricultural infrastructure found that headline project costs in state-linked complexes routinely exclude land acquisition, utility connection, and labor subsidies that would register as capital expenditure in a private market context. The published figure is unverified and may not measure the same things a comparable Western figure would. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault stands at the opposite end of that scale. It is fully documented. The Norwegian government spent approximately $9 million on construction. A later technical upgrade added 20 million euros, and annual operating costs run approximately 1 million euros. The vault holds more than 1.3 million seed samples, with documented capacity for millions more. Nordgen manages the deposits. The Crop Trust operates the facility as an insurance instrument for the global food supply. These figures have remained consistent across the Crop Trust, Nordgen, and Norwegian government reporting for over a decade, which makes Svalbard the best documented extreme food infrastructure project in the field. The contrast is exact. $9 million, accounted for line by line, protecting the genetic basis of nearly every cultivated crop, and a livestock complex costing 2 orders of magnitude more, with output figures no external authority has confirmed. 2 governments, both citing food security as the objective, operating under 2 different standards of accountability. The seed vault cost less to construct than a single one of the offshore salmon platforms. The pattern extends beyond these 6. Bloomberg's data on agritech investment records a sharp shift since 2020. Capital that previously flowed into conventional farmland is increasingly directed toward controlled environment and extreme location production. The movement concentrates where water is scarcest. The World Bank identifies Jordan, Yemen, and the Gulf states as operating at or below the threshold of water security, in the most constrained cases under 500 cubic meters of renewable fresh water per person per year. The Sahara Forest Project's Jordan installation, Saudi Arabia's desalination operations at Ras Al Khair, and NEOM's Oxagon floating industrial port all sit within the zone where food and water have become a national security calculation. The Svalbard Vault is that logic at its endpoint, A facility built because a crop disease, a climate event, or a conflict that destroys seed diversity leaves no recovery path. The Antarctic greenhouse, the desert greenhouse, the offshore platform, the underground farm, and the 100,000 cow complex are each a different response to the same condition. Conventional agriculture, dependent on stable climate, accessible water, and predictable supply chains, is operating on narrowing margins. If a sustained disruption forces any of these systems from demonstration into primary supply, the cost per calorie figure held inside the internal audits, the number absent from every announcement, becomes the only one that matters. Subscribe to follow the next stage of this investigation. What does your country have ready for that moment?